Alien Covenant is directed by Ridley Scott and stars Michael Fassbender and Catherine Waterston. It is about a group of colonists on a mission in their big ship called the Covenant to colonize a distant planet, but they get sidetracked and decide to go to a different planet. And of course this leads to trouble for the crew, and a bunch of Prometheus alien stuff happens. So I think the first thing to say about this movie is that it is a sequel to Prometheus. Through and through, I think this film should have been called Prometheus 2 or Prometheus something or other, not really Alien, because it doesn't really have much to do with the aliens that we're used to from the previous Alien movies, even though it basically is kind of an origin story for the Alien franchise. And there are some themes which tie into some of the themes from Prometheus. As far as I remember, it's been a long time since I've seen Prometheus. So I went into this film not really remembering much of Prometheus, so I was a little bit lost on some of the points. As expected, this film was visually breathtaking. Every shot in it looked great, the lighting was fantastic, it was crisp, all the way down to the title text and how the text at the beginning of the film kind of slowly showed itself. And the designs of the ships, the designs of the suits, all around the designs were really good. And I really appreciated the imagery in this, all the way down to the gore with the aliens kind of popping out of their human hosts. It was really cool and scary looking, as it should be. This brings me to the sound design. The sound design was spot on, especially with those scenes with the aliens bursting out. It was organic, it fit well with the tone of the scenes, and was overall very well done and didn't draw attention to itself. And the music to top this off was really well done. I really enjoyed it. Like the sound design, it didn't show itself too much, but if you pay attention, it's actually really enjoyable, and for the most part fit well with most of the scenes going on throughout the film. And I did really appreciate a lot of practical effects in this. There were shots that you could use CG, and a lot of films do decide to use CG, especially with a lot of the gore. I do appreciate the makeup and the practical effects that they did use in this film. Even though at times I did notice that you did use a lot of CG, and I felt like some of the parts were completely unnecessary to use CG in those parts. Now, as the films progress, these characters who have kind of put themselves into this situation because they were originally trying to go to a completely different planet to colonize it, the characters tend to make every possible wrong decision they possibly could. And this might be my biggest problem with the film, is the characters. You know, in the original Alien movie, the characters were very likable. They had scenes where they showed off their dynamics with their relationships with one another. This film just feels like they have kind of empty character relationships. There's not really enough camaraderie for me among this crew to really make me care about or even like the characters that much. They're all kind of just empty shells, or basically you can tell who's gonna die and who's gonna live for the most part. Not to say that the acting wasn't good. The acting was fine. It wasn't bad. I don't think it was absolutely fantastic, other than maybe Michael Fassbender, who played 2 roles in this movie, which I think he did an excellent job playing both of those roles, and even certain scenes where he's playing 2 different characters in the same scene. I think that was very well done, but the other characters I just didn't care about, and they make such stupid decisions, and the plot actually relies on that. That's a huge problem that I have with it. When the plot relies on the stupidity of the characters, it just makes it feel very contrived and honestly hurts the story overall for me. So there's maybe 1 or 2 interesting characters. All the other characters really aren't that interesting, and whatever development they get, it doesn't really pay off in any significant way, or at least to where you really care that much about them. And I also think that some of the scenes in the movie, there's one in particular, entire scene, that could have been cut out completely and not really lose much of the story in general. It would have lost maybe some of the excitement, but again, this scene was caused by the stupidity of some of the characters, where they could have done some simple solution, but they decided not to, so that the story can have this one scene in the movie. And it was kind of eye-rolling, and honestly, a lot of the times I was just really annoyed at the characters and the way this story was going. But one thing I did really appreciate with the story is that it was a very slow build to it. In terms of them being out in space and finding this planet, I thought it was really well done. I just wish there could have been a little bit more development with the characters and the character relationships so that we could actually care about them a little bit more. And also one thing that kind of did ruin a little bit of the enjoyment of this film was the trailer. The trailer kind of giving away certain elements or shots from the film that kind of take you out of that scene because all you're doing is waiting for that one moment that was in the trailer to happen. But on a story level, I did really appreciate the theme that they were going with, and they stuck with it throughout the entire film. Because you learn what the theme is at the beginning of the film, and I was thinking, I really hope they keep up with this theme and not like change themes, because then there would not be any point to that first scene. And of course, I kind of went to this movie hoping for an alien movie, but what I got was a Prometheus movie with a tiny bit of element of alien. And when they're going up and mixing these two things, of course, you have a little bit of clash with the film wanting to be a horror alien movie on one side and then wanting to be a Prometheus movie with deep themes and philosophies. And I think those two kind of clashed, especially toward the latter portions of the film. Which was, as a whole, there were a lot of parts which really annoyed me, especially with the characters, which really hurts the story a lot, to be honest. And a lot of things don't really add up or make sense, especially considering there were, that I remember, a lot of questions for Prometheus, and I'm not sure if they were answered or not in this film. It doesn't feel like they were. But on a technical level, this film is fantastic. It looks great. It sounds great. The effects are really well done, even though there are some points where it didn't need effects. Practical effects would have been a little bit better, I think. But from a story standpoint, I think it could have been a lot better, especially considering the characters. And it felt like the story was kind of struggling with itself on what it wanted to focus on. So with that considered, I have to say this movie is a middle-of-the-road movie. It doesn't really feel like you're missing out on a whole lot. It's not a bad movie. It's not really an excellent movie, I don't think. But if you like Prometheus and you like the Alien franchise, it might be worth checking out. Especially if you're into visuals, if you're into really interesting themes in movies. It's worth checking out, but if you hate it when characters do stupid things, then it's probably going to annoy you a lot. I hope everybody enjoyed the video. If you haven't, subscribe to the channel and comment with your thoughts. I'll see you later.